and confession is even better. You know, I listened to Dr. Kenny Anthony and I found it very interesting what he was saying there. Could you turn off my earphone, please? And so Dr. Anthony was reflecting on the cost, and according to him, this is the most expensive public sector project ever undertaken in St. Lucia, and he is correct. He mentioned that this Alan Shastney administration expended about $160 million on the modern, built-for-purpose, state-of-the-art hospital that they started. And from my understanding, it was about 80% complete for the $160 million. And that another $60 million would have done the job. That would have been all told just over $200 million. However, between Stephenson King, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and now Philip Chipier, a whopping $400 million, over $400 million would have been spent on the old 80-year-old St. Jude's building, and it is still incomplete. Do not forget that we took a loan of over $200 million from the Saudis, and in our budget, an allocation of about $265 million was made for the rehabilitation of the old 80-year-old building called St. Jude's. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the fiasco that the SLP is grappling with and still cannot resolve up to this day justifies the decision made by the last Alan Shastney-led United Workers' Party administration to abandon, not abandon totally, but to choose instead to construct a brand new hospital specifically designed for that purpose. That clearly shows now that it would have been a wiser decision to finish that building, and it would cost us far less money to do so. Of course, given how much that has already been spent on the old St. Jude, the 80-year-old building, it would not be wise to simply abandon it, because that would be throwing away money. But the United Workers' Party had plans for that building as well. And so, this election, that factor, that matter, will be taken into account as a major factor in terms of governance, decision-making, and vision. And we will complete the St. Jude's Hospital, because you know that the term of the St. Lucia Labour Party has ended and they have not completed the hospital. The United Workers' Party will effect the transition from George Odlum Stadium to the St. Jude's Hospital. Thereafter, they will proceed to complete what is the modern, built-for-purpose, state-of-the-art hospital. And then the 80-year-old building will be utilized as a university hospital for training of doctors and nurses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is such a disaster, such a catastrophe, such a mismanagement of public funds that is not even funny. And to think that the St. Lucia Labour Party believe in the face of all of this, excuse me, in the face of all of this, they could pull wool over your eye and still try to claim credit and benefit from that catastrophe that they have created. It's mind-boggling to think how much the St. Lucia Labour Party has confidence in bluff and deceit. St. Lucians are not blind. You have blind followers, yes, and they will follow you to hell. But the rest of us can reason for ourselves. We can analyze situations, and we can understand, and we know when we see BS that we know it is BS. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to read to you a post that I saw on social media. And that post, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me calling her name. It was on social media, and that post was placed there by none other than Miss Minerva Ward. And I found the contents of that post to be so apt. to be so spot on, to be so applicable, that I decided that I would read that as we're discussing the St. Jude fiasco of the St. Lucia Labour Party under Philip Japien. It reads, now that this fake SLP PR stunt, this scam, this sham has come and gone, where exactly are we today? Very important question. St. Jude Hospital is still closed. You heard me? After the sham, the scam, as Minerva referred to it, that's that political stunt that was pulled yesterday. And by the way, mind you, it cost you, the taxpayers, valuable, meager resources that we do not have to stage that scam there. In other words, they took your money to pull off that partisan political campaign stunt in Beaufort yesterday. The question is, where exactly are we today? Bottom line, to summarize it, St. Jude's Hospital, after all of that charade, is still closed. The so-called building, which is what the Prime Minister said, he's giving you a completed building. And I ask, why is it a building when in the first place that is not what you promised? In the first place, that's not what we asked for, that's not what we need, that's not what we are waiting for. You promise and you deliver the building. I don't know if, like I've always said, if it is a warehouse, if it is a dance hall, what kind of building it is. But the so-called building, even forget the hospital, but even the building is still unfinished. And our patients, doctors and nurses remain trapped in the George Odlum Stadium with no end in sight. After all the lies, the scripted talking points, the stage theatrics, and the desperate attempt to rewrite history, we still don't know how much money, and even Dr. Kenny Anthony, who is a parliamentarian in the SLP fold himself, the representative of Beaufort South, is admitting that even he does not know how much was spent on that hospital. We still don't know how much money was actually spent. The public was deliberately blocked from seeing the inside. A sham, a real sham. And there is absolutely no timeline for the completion, far less commissioning or opening. This government continues to lie to the people of St. Lucia the same way they have lied about everything. The billions from our CIP with no audited statements, they lied to us on that. The secret GPH deal, the missing $20 million supposedly for housing, the fake 2.5 health and safety levy that we later discovered was really to satisfy a loan requirement, and the list of lies, cover-ups, and zero transparency just keeps growing. I'd like to say to the author of this article, do not despair. After the 1st of December, that will be brought to an end by the citizens of this country, because there are many more honorable, discerning, well-meaning citizens of this country than they are the likes of those who form the government of the SLP. On the 1st of December, we really do not have a choice. This SLP government must be voted out. St. Lucia cannot survive another term of lies, secret deals, zero accountability, and last-minute PR stunts meant to distract us from their failures. I think, like I said, this post was well written and on target, spot on. I repeat again that quote that I use in my SLP segment: whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. The St. Jude Hospital is an important matter, and we know from the number of lies that the Prime Minister and the St. Lucia Labour Party government ministers have pulled on us, that we couldn't trust them on small matters, there is no reason why we should expect to be able to trust them on important matters. And again, they have failed us on an all-important, very important matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is taking place. This is what is happening. You know, I believe, like I said, that the post captures the essence of the scam of incompetence and deceit perpetrated by the St. Lucia Labour Party on St. Lucians that culminated in yesterday's shameful election PR stunt. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to play for you a press statement from the United Workers' Party on that very same issue, the very same subject of St. Jude's. I want you, in fact, in that statement, you'll realize the UWP commented on this embarrassment and insult and disrespect to the St. Lucian public. So let's please listen to clip number 3 for that United Workers' Party press statement. The St. Lucia Labour Party has once again wheeled out a political performance disguised as public service, this time attempting to pass off a ribbon-cutting ceremony as the resurrection of St. Jude Hospital. But beneath the speeches, stage lights, and taxpayer-funded theatrics lies a medical and moral emergency. St. Jude is still not functioning as a hospital. Not one patient can be treated. Not one life can be saved. 16 years after the 2009 inferno that reduced the original hospital to ashes, the SLP has delivered not healthcare, but headline care. A facade of progress meant to resuscitate a failing administration. Their handing over is nothing more than political cosmetic surgery on an 80-year-old building still in intensive care. Despite yesterday's parade of a November 16, 2025, no emergency room is operational. No pharmacy exists. No maternity services are active. No surgical theaters are equipped. No diagnostic suites are functional. No inpatient beds are ready. Only office space and a laundry are currently in use. This is not a hospital. It is a public relations ward dressed up for cameras, while the people of the South continue to suffer medical displacement. Let us be clear. In 2021, the UWP was on a track to complete a new, modern, clinically designed hospital complex as part of a long-term healthcare plan for St. Lucia. The SLP, by contrast, promised to open St. Jude's within 1 year of taking office. 4 years later, they are still signing contracts, most backed by the staggering EC $200 million loan announced in 2024. Now, on the eve of an election, they attempt political triage, using a ceremony to mask non-delivery, incomplete systems, and colossal or cost overruns. This is not governance. In fact, it is malpractice. For a government that boasts about accountability, the SLP refuses to disclose the hospital's actual status, the date medical staff will occupy it, and the full financial truth behind the hundreds of millions already spent. And crucially, how much of the EC $200 million loan remain to rehabilitate the George Odlum Stadium as the Prime Minister solemnly promised? The people of the South especially have been forced into the longest waiting room in our history. 16 years is not a delay. It is a dereliction of duty. A building is not a hospital. A ceremony is not care, and St. Lucians will not be fooled. We say this for what it is, pure political theatrics to trick the electorate. But right-thinking St. Lucians shall not be fooled by Pierre or his games. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have just catalogued one of the biggest bluffs, one of the biggest political stunts, one of the biggest shams that the St. Lucia Labour Party government has tried to pull on the people of St. Lucia. Disguise as success when in fact it is a colossal failure. A colossal failure on your part. A glaring show of incompetence. You all are inadequate as a government. You all cannot deliver on your promises, and you all are trying once again to cover up for your failures and your deficiencies by telling lies to the people of St. Lucia. You have lied about the CIP. You have lied about GPH and kept most of the information a secret. No accountability there. You have lied to us about the $20 million for housing. You have not disclosed information on the $80 million loan that you had NLA to take for development of sports facilities. You have lied to us on the 2.5% that you imposed on us. You continue to tell us lie after lie after lie. But I think you topped it with this charade that you demonstrated in Beaufort on Sunday at the St. Jude's so-called hospital. I want to say this to you. You will pay a heavy price at the polls for all that deceit, all that dishonesty, all that bluff, the insult and the disrespect for the intelligence of St. Lucia. You will pay for that on the 1st of December because you have betrayed our trust and you have violated the confidence that St. Lucians place in your government. It is time for you to go. Get rid of a lying, deceitful, dishonest, untrustworthy government, the St. Lucia Labour Party government. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned. This was Secret Lies and Propaganda. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll go into segment 2.
From your community lies, how much more money we have to lose? How many more people that want to fool? Where the money for the CIP, like them fellas up a money tree.
The views of the host of this program is independent of Hot 7 TV, Kiss FM, and Hot FM Communications Limited.
For too long, St. Lucians have carried the weight of a tax that was only meant to last 2 years. The 2.5% levy has eaten into every paycheck, raised the cost of groceries, and made life harder for families already struggling. The United Workers' Party will remove it from day one. No more broken promises. That means more money in your pocket, lower prices at the store, and relief for every St. Lucia. Let's save our St. Lucia. Together, we will right that wrong.
Did you know that while you're busy with your day, important news is breaking all around you? From politics to weather updates, community stories, and breaking news. Hot 7 TV keeps you informed with news every hour on the hour. Don't wait to hear it secondhand. Stay ahead. Stay informed with Hot 7 TV St. Lucia. News notes on the hour. Stay updated wherever you are. Catch Hot 7 TV St. Lucia's news every hour on the air, on our mobile app, and on our website.
For years, families in the South have been forced to pay for dam dredging at the John Compton Dam, even though they don't receive a drop of water from it. That injustice ends when the United Workers' Party returns to office. We will remove the dam dredging fee for Southern residents because you should never have to pay for a service you don't receive. Fairness, justice, respect for every St. Lucian, no matter where you live. Let's save our St. Lucia. Together, we will right the wrong.
Too many young St. Lucians leave school with dreams they cannot afford to chase. That ends now. The United Workers' Party will deliver free tertiary education at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, opening doors, unlocking potential, and giving every student a fair chance to succeed. Because when our young people rise, our nation rises with them. Together we will build a smarter and stronger St. Lucia for all with free tertiary education. Save our St. Lucia. Together we will right the wrong.
In St. Lucia today, too many families face impossible choices: medicine or groceries, treatment or tuition. Around the world, nations have already proven that national health coverage changes lives. The United Workers' Party will make it real here at home. National health insurance, $75,000 in coverage for every St. Lucian. No exception, no excuses. Because quality health care is not a privilege, it is your right. Save our St. Lucia. Together, we will right this wrong.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for staying tuned to Like It Is. As we go into the second segment, I would like to inform you, in fact, first of all, you can join us on Hot 7 TV, you can join us on KISS FM, you can join us on Facebook, and I'm pleased to announce once again we are back on YouTube. So especially our viewers and listeners from Canada, you can inform them that they can get us on YouTube, since it is a problem out there for them to get us on Facebook. So we are all on all those mediums tonight. So we ask you to join in as we go into our second segment and we continue our discussions on what is taking place in our beloved country, St. Lucia. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about St. Jude's extensively in our SLP segment. But before I leave the subject of St. Jude, talking about St. Jude, it appears to me, from my observation of what transpired down there, the charade that took place down there, it appears that at least a couple of the SLP, now you have to give credit where credit is due. I say it appears, I'm not sure. A couple of the SLP MPs at least have an ounce of conscience and shame. I say so because it appears that they couldn't face the facade and the ridiculously embarrassing gimmick that showed them up and exposed them for the bluffers and liars that they are. And I say so because I listened to the Prime Minister, as he tried to make excuses for some of them. Take a listen to the shameless Philip J. as he makes excuses for those who couldn't stand to face the charade and probably were too embarrassed to stay there and had to make the exit. Clip number 4, please.
Alva Baptiste had to go back to his constituency, and Richard Fredericks went home because he was tired, he wasn't feeling too well. But all is fine. And Sister Lisa Joy, she is not well. She went home to rest. She had to talk in meetings next week. So she asked me to go home to rest tonight. Understand, we are tired. Yeah, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, Alva Baptiste had to go back to his constituency. He couldn't afford the time that it would take to deliver that all-important St. Jude Hospital that he proclaimed years ago that all it needed to complete was a coat of paint and some chemical. But it took them so long to find that coat of paint, so long to find that chemical, that their term of office has ended and they could not finish that hospital. No wonder he was too embarrassed to stay there. He left. Lisa is too tired to burden her brain with that charade that was taking place there. She had to leave. She had to go and rest. Richard Frederick is also tired, and he had to leave because he was not feeling too well. I've heard the saying that the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I suspect that the Lord has his fun sometimes when people try to make fun of him and his people. And you're wondering what I'm talking about. I suspect the higher powers decided, you all want to ridicule people? Let us be ridiculous. So you, Richard, you are not feeling too well. And the Prime Minister, you left, you at a hospital. You're not feeling too well, but you left to go where? So your home is more effective, more suited for a sick person than the hospital that you're opening. You see how ridiculous this is? You see how you are being shown up and exposed for the idiots that you all are when you all think you all are taking people for idiots? Richard Frederick was not feeling too well, so he left. You know what he left, ladies and gentlemen? The hospital. You would have thought anybody on site who was not feeling too well, that you'd probably say that's the best place not to feel too well. Take him to the emergency room. Let the doctors and nurses examine him and determine whether he's going to be admitted or he's going to be treated and discharged. Bluffers. Bluffers. Trying to pull wool over people's eye. You know? But you see, at the end of the day, the very same Richard, another reason why he may not have been able to stay there. And, in fact, let you listen to a clip and you determine what exactly it is that might have gotten Richard sick and not feeling too well. Let's go to clip number 5 and let's hear Richard Frederick.
Mr. Philip J. Pierre, I'm putting you on notice. Should the hospital not be completed during our term, I will no longer run for elections. Okay? Should the hospital not be completed within our term, I will not contest the next general elections.
Yes, folks. In the words of RF, El Cuapo di Consa, if, that's a message directed to Mr. Prime Minister, if the St. Jude's Hospital is not completed, I will not contest the next elections. He is putting you on notice. If the St. Jude Hospital is not completed, I will not contest the next election. The next election is on the 1st of December, 2 weeks from now. And in fact, the St. Jude Hospital is not completed. The building is not completed. The hospital is not commissioned. The hospital is not open. You said if that was the case, you would not contest the next election. So, once again, folks, Richard Frederick El Cuapo has to eat his vomit. Because you know these people have no word of honor. They do not keep their word. They say one thing today and they do something that is diametrically opposite what they claim that they are going to do. So I don't have to tell you, he will not honor those words. He will contest the next election. And I want him to contest the next election so that he can be defeated soundly at the polls. However, once again, like I said, another occasion where Richard Frederick had to eat his vomit, okay? Because, you know, consuming so much vomit, ladies and gentlemen, in one term of office by one individual must get even a frog's intestine unsettled. So it is small wonder that Richard Frederick was not feeling too well. He got sick and had to leave. Because he is shameless, so is Philip J. Pierre. Okay? He was, you know, for once, he was honest with the public. And I believe that he was indeed sick. That is Richard Frederick. I believe he was indeed sick. Because you have to be sick. When you make such pronouncements, you know, when you vomit such bile and you have to eat it, it must unsettle your stomach. But, make no mistake, the dragon slayer, Rush Clark, is waiting for you, Richard, in the next general election in the constituency of Castries Central. And he is waiting to spread some more salt on you to ensure that you do not ever recover from whatever it is that afflicts you right now. And I know what affliction you have right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to move on to another subject, another topic. That is Sunday, the 16th of November, yesterday. We have already spoken about the sham, the charade, the facade, the bluff, the political gimmick that took place in Vieux Fort. And I now want to talk about that massive rally by the United Workers' Party at the William Peter Boulevard. Ladies and gentlemen, what a statement. Those who were in doubt, those who had questions, those who were wondering had their questions answered yesterday. Because in a show of force, United Workers' Party supporters came out in droves. St. Lucians flooded the boulevard more than the inclement weather itself. There were more people than there were drops of rain at that boulevard last night. And what I was most impressed about is the determination and commitment of the people who turned out at the boulevard to make that statement yesterday. Throughout the event, it was either drizzling or actually raining heavily. But the people were not moved. Not even the rain could put out the torch. That was an impressive showing by any measure. And ladies and gentlemen, I must confess to you, that crowd I saw in the boulevard last night, was reminiscent of that crowd that I saw in the boulevard in 2006 when Sir John Compton returned to lead the United Workers' Party into victory at the polls. And so, your guess is as good as mine. And you can only imagine seeing that turnout yesterday, seeing the determination of the people who were there yesterday. A lot of people are asking themselves, what is that indicative of? I'm sure you know the answer. However, I want to make a special appeal to supporters of the United Workers' Party. Do not let that massive turnout lead you into complacency. Do not let that massive showing of strength lead you into jumping to premature conclusions. You must translate that support into votes by going out on election day, the 1st of December, and casting your ballots for the United Workers' Party. Support is appreciated. Support is admirable. But ultimately, the bottom line is converting that support into votes to ensure that the United Workers' Party emerges victorious at the polls on the 1st of December so that we can have a change of government to remove that despicable group of men and women who call themselves honorable people as our government and return St. Lucia on the path to proper governance, secure democracy, progress, and development. So, once again, I appeal, be sure to go out and vote on December the 1st. If you had any doubts as to whether or not the United Workers' Party is in the ascendancy, you have answered that question last night. And for those of you who were not present, please take a look as I give you a little glimpse at what exactly I'm talking about at the boulevard, mind you, in inclement weather. Take a look at clip number 9, please. Yes, that massive showing. You know, if El Guapo on his way back from St. Jude's, if he wasn't too sick to stop near the boulevard to take a look, tonight he would be telling you there was a magnanimous crowd in the boulevard. Albeit misuse of the word, I will not do like him, but there was a mammoth crowd. There was a gigantic crowd. There's a massive crowd. Yes, El Guapo, those are the descriptive words that you can use for that crowd that we had there. And I say to you, I am thankful and grateful, and on behalf of the United Workers' Party, I want to extend our sincere thanks and gratitude to you for coming out and demonstrating that you as St. Lucians put your country first, and you are not fooled, bluffed, deceived. You do not allow yourself to be lied to and deceived repeatedly, that you have seen through a government that is not accountable, a government that is incompetent, and a government that does not have your best interests at heart, a government that has betrayed your trust, a government you cannot rely on, you cannot trust. And I'm happy that you have made a decision that you're going to take a stand to save our St. Lucia by coming out and supporting the United Workers' Party, and even more importantly, by going out on the 1st of December to cast your vote for your candidate of the United Workers' Party in your constituency to ensure that the United Workers' Party forms the government, not by any narrow margin, but by a resounding mandate, so that we can put this country back on an even keel, back on a path to prosperity, progress, and development. Ladies and gentlemen, I once again thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and your spirit. Something great is about to happen in this land. I know I can count on St. Lucians to rise up when the needs arise and to take a stand in the best interests of our country, just as the United Workers' Party, with its formidable team of men and women, will respond to the challenge, will respond to the call, and will not betray your confidence, as they will hit the ground running come December the 2nd to do the repair work that is necessary and to begin the advancement and the development of this country, to make your standard of living better, to make cost of living more affordable, to make health care better, to make you feel safer in your country by reducing the violent crime that are taking place on our streets. Ladies and gentlemen, I once again express on behalf of the leadership, the executive, and members of the United Workers' Party our sincere thanks. Continue in the next 2 weeks to show your support, to demonstrate your solidarity, and to continue to take a stand in the interests of your country. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, talking about making things better. You know, it is sad when people who ought to know better try to prey on the ignorance of the less enlightened and to make them even more ignorant than they already are. And I'm zoning in on the statement made, and of course I've already dismissed the statement backs Mr. Marcellus Steed, the independent Labour candidate for Castries North. He made the statement. I think he was following off the cue of the Minister of Health, but I think he has since understood how wrong that he was. I think it was a genuine error for lack of understanding. But on the part of the Minister of Health, I'm not suggesting that he should automatically know those things, but given his position, and especially if you're going to make any official comment in your capacity as Minister of Health, you should at least take the time to educate yourself, to enlighten yourself on the subject before you make such pronouncements, given the position that you hold. So we know that Musa made an idiotic, asinine statement about the national health insurance that the United Workers' Party is proposing to St. Lucians. Of course, different people have different priorities in life, and I've heard some young people argue that this policy is the master stroke, that policy is the master stroke. Even older people have heard argue that they go for this policy and that policy. For me, it is the NHI. Now, that is not to say all are not important, and that I don't look forward to all. I look forward to the removal of the 2.5% and the reduction in gas prices, because that's going to benefit my pocket. But I'm saying the ultimate for me is that policy of implementing a national health insurance so that all St. Lucians can have health coverage up to the tune of $75,000. That, UWP, I think is a masterstroke, and I say to you, when we elect you into government, do everything in your power to ensure that that policy is implemented during the course of your term in office. And so, I think not just me, but I think the Labour Party recognized that that was a masterpiece, and that would appeal to everyone across the board, given the woes that we suffer in our health system. First of all, we know that our health system is underfunded and underperforming. And do not take my word, I go by what the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association say. And by the way, I understand that they were not even invited to the handing over of the building in Vieux-Fort yesterday, and have not to date been taken on a tour of the completed building. But that notwithstanding, we had the Minister of Health, who understands, just as I do, the importance, the significance of that masterstroke. And so they had to try to rubbish it. They had to try to pour cold water on it. And they try again to do what they know best to do, to come and to bluff St. Lucians, to lie to them, to play on their ignorance. And so a Minister of Health who ought to, and who I believe does understand how insurances work, is now trying to tell St. Lucians that this NHI is not feasible because it is going to cost St. Lucians to earn St. Lucia too much money, and where are we going to get that money from? Now, you see, that asinine statement that you made, I will expose it. Musa, who was our Minister of Health, could not come up with that idea to implement such a policy. They fiddled around with universal health care, playing games, promising 80-year-olds all kinds of things, only for them to have to put their hands in their pockets when they go for health care, for treatment. He's saying that our population is about 180,000. That's what the last census said. We have 180,000 people in St. Lucia, more or less. And that we are providing $75,000 coverage per person. So the idiot went ahead in his simplistic brain, just multiplied 75,000 by 180,000 people, and came up with the figures that it's going to cost $13.5 billion in total coverage. And he wants to know where that money is going to come from. Of course, I said Marcellus Steen made that same mistake, I guess, following from his lead and, quoting his figures as well. And they have indoctrinated the poor, unenlightened St. Lucians who do not know better, so much so that they are repeating that garbage, and they are consumed with that garbage. And even today, I listened to Newspin, and credit again, I gave him his kudos on my last program, but credit again to Frank Myers, a professional, an expert in his field, who is more enlightened than us, some of us, the lay people, who do not understand some of those subjects and issues, but by virtue of his background, his training, and his expertise, understand those things better than us. He takes the time, as a patriotic St. Lucian, in the interest of his country. And I say so because what he is doing, I'm sure, has cost him in this kind of politically charged atmosphere we operate in, with the vindictive government of the St. Lucia Labour Party that we have, I wouldn't be surprised if it has cost him. But he comes and explains to us, okay, to us who are lesser mortals as far as those subjects are concerned, how those things work. And you know, the man took his time, called Timothy Polio, explained, you know, that what the Minister of Health, Musa, was saying is total and utter rubbish, and that is not how insurances work. The minute he put down the phone, one of the SLP surrogates, one of the minions, picked up the phone and repeated exactly the same garbage. So you see, the UWP has been on the campaign trail for some time now, educating St. Lucians and so on. I want to say to them, that has to be an ongoing process. Do not take it for granted. Because what the SLP does is repeat and regurgitate garbage over and over. Misleading statements, dishonest statements, deceit that they know that is not true, over and over, to convince people who do not know better that what they are saying is so. And that has cost our country quite a lot. So here we are with a Minister of Health who should be promoting anything, any move, any plan, any policy that will improve our health system that has gotten to its worst under his watch. No wonder it has gotten to its worst under his watch. He is misleading St. Lucians rather than give credit where credit is due and see what that policy is on its merit. He tried to rubbish it. So I want to say to you, Musa, that you are totally wrong in the manner in which you went about working out the plan. That is not how insurance policies work. Okay? First of all, do not try to suggest to St. Lucians that 180,000 St. Lucians each will get $75,000. That, you know, it's not so. That is not true. And for those who do not know, I will attempt to explain. I tried to last night, but a critic, which I welcome, indicated that I did a poor job of it. I'm hoping I can do a slightly better job tonight of explaining in as simple terms as I can how this is going to work. It is feasible. It is not a pipeline dream. So, first of all, let me explain that no insurance company is expected to have the maximum amount of money for every possible claim at one time from all policyholders, because they operate under the principle of risk pooling. That means they work it out and they understand that you have 180,000 people. 180,000 people will not flood your gates one day all claiming $75,000. That is not how it works. Let me explain. From my knowledge of what obtained in the discussions that were taking place previously, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that figures of $1,000 to $1,200 per person per year were being looked at. So let's take the upper figure, $1,200. If it turns out to be that the premium is $1,200 per person per year, ladies and gentlemen, when you break it down, that amounts to about $100 a month. Now, for anyone who is working, who has a decent job, $100 for healthcare, where you're going to get $75,000 in coverage, is, by my calculation, next to nothing. And I'm sure many St. Lucians, if not all St. Lucians, will be happy as workers to take $100 out of their salary to provide them with the peace of mind and the comfort of knowing that they can go to the doctor if they're ill without having to wonder where the money is coming from, and can go to the doctor and get treatment if they are afflicted with some serious illness. And if it means that they have to go through surgery or any complex operation, that cost thousands of dollars, that it will not break their bank, impoverish their families, or put them in a situation to have to seek charity. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a game changer. No more GoFundMe. No more barbecue. No more boat rides. No more raffle sheets. No more, please help me, while you are suffering and in some cases dying. That is the significance of this NHI, and I'm not downplaying other policies of the United Workers' Party, but I'm just telling you that, to my mind, is one of the most significant, most important policies that they could have come up with, because that will benefit even young people who feel invincible and that they're not going to get sick. Unfortunately, sometimes they do. But let me go back to the idea of risk pooling. When you talk about risk pooling, it means everyone puts their $1,200, and if you have 180,000 people, that'll be over $200 million. It is unlikely, because they would have done the calculations. They are experts in that field who study all the indices that should be looked at, and they arrive at a figure that is reasonable to provide the coverage that would be needed. And so they take into account age, they take into account health history of St. Lucians, they take into account all of those things. What is the likelihood of so many people making claims? What is the likelihood that there'll be claims up to certain levels and so on? They work out all of those things, and they know, okay, by working out all the probabilities, that they do not need $13.5 billion at any given time. The premiums that is put in the pool will cover the few individuals who may need $75,000 at a given time, while the rest of us, and I say us because I'm hoping I am in the pool who do not even have to make claims because I'm healthy and I remain healthy, those of us who are not claiming will provide the coverage for those who are claiming, and there'll still be profit for the insurance company. So I'm hoping that you get a clearer picture now. So for example, bear in mind that we have a very large pool of clients to be insured. Let us say, if the census is accurate, 180,000 people, you know. But 180,000 people would be at different stages in their health life, you know. They would be, you know, different situations, and they have to take different considerations would have to be taken into consideration in terms of probability of claims. So, in my layman explanation, now don't take me, you know, to the T, because I'm just drawing reference arbitrarily to explain and to elaborate my point. Let us say, for example, a much older person, usually older people are afflicted with all kinds of illnesses, chronic illnesses, you know, and so on, where they have to constantly get medical care. So let's say, you know, in the year, they claim 10,000 and so on. Those who have more complications may end up having to claim 75,000. People who are younger, one or two may have an accident or something where they may need to claim 75,000, but by and large, generally speaking, perhaps most of them just go for one checkup for the year and that's it, they're good. Younger people, of course there are young people who get sick, but by and large they are healthy people. Some young people may not even claim $1 for the year. So, you do not need no $13 billion to cover at any given time. So when all the premiums are paid and put in that pool, the few who would require the $75,000, that will be more than covered. The few who would take $10,000, that will be more than covered, and so on. And the balance, okay, will be there to build the pool and for the insurance company to run its operation and to make its profit. That is how it is. And I always like to give the example of the police, for example. So, if I'm not mistaken, there are about 1,300 police officers. In the last negotiations with when the United Workers' Party government was in office, when they were talking about, paying them for the risk that they take, because their job is a high-risk job, so they were looking for a risk allowance. Through negotiations between the police and the government, they agreed that rather than pay them a fee for risk allowance, they would provide health insurance for them. And so it was decided that every police officer would pay $75 monthly to cover their health insurance. 1,300 police officers. If a police officer dies in the course of duty, his family will receive $300,000. If a police officer dies a natural death while he's a police officer, his family gets $100,000. If a police officer falls sick, he is covered in terms of his medical bills. With 1,300 police paying $75 a month, the insurance company can cover that. Do you know why? When last you heard any police officer getting killed in the line of duty? If and when it happens, it is rare. How many police officers die in a year while a police officer? Very few, if any. Going to the doctor, police officers, I don't want to speak too loud on that one, are supposed to be among healthy, fit people, so they shouldn't be among the people who are too sick in this country and requiring too much medical help. So, because of the moderate claims that would be made and the pool of premiums that would be paid, the insurance company can more than cover the claims that would be made at any given time. The same principle will apply here, and the insurance company, to my layman's mind, would have an even greater advantage given the fact that it has a much larger pool of clients paying. So, just like when you insure your car, okay? Everyone who has a car goes to the insurance company to make a claim every year or every month? No. As a matter of fact, there are some of you who have been paying insurance on your vehicle for years and you haven't had an accident, you have not made a claim. You're not going to get that money back. That money remains in the pool, okay? To finance claims, to run the operations of the insurance, and to provide profit for the insurance. That is how insurance works. So do not try to fool St. Lucians who do not know better. Shame on you, Moses Jean-Baptiste Moussa. You call yourself a minister of health. That is unhealthy what you did there. To try to fool people in that manner. To try to prey on the ignorance of the less enlightened among us. Your job as a leader is to bring people up, not to keep them down by keeping them ignorant. That's shameful what you did. People like you have to be discharged. People like you, and you're not worthy of the office that you hold. And that is why history will be made in Beaufort North. Kakal, Khalid Xavier will get rid of you and make history in your constituency. Because St. Lucians should not reward people like you for doing what you did. And shameful as you are, the least you can do to salvage some of your integrity is to come out and apologize for that statement and withdraw it. I know I won't sue you for saying it. But if you have any integrity, you would do so because you know better. And if you did not know better, you must have heard people like Frank Myers, and you must have heard me tonight. You ought to know better now. Do the honorable thing. If you deserve the title of honorable. And come to the people, apologize, withdraw the statement, and clarify what exactly national health insurance really is. And the fact that, just like it operates in other countries, it is feasible in St. Lucia. And let me just inform you, the men and women of the United Workers' Party were well chosen. Not just for good looks, so a lot of them look good, I must say, not just for good looks, but because of their competence and expertise, and because they have what it takes to understand the intricacies of such policies to be able to implement them. I'm not surprised that it's beyond the Labour Party. Hence the reason why, as far back as 2001, in your manifesto, you promised St. Lucians national health insurance. You served in government between 2001 and 2006. You did not implement it. You came back to government between 2011 and 2016. You did not implement it. You are, in fact, you're just outgoing now. You were in government from 2021 to this month, and you did not implement it. That is because clearly, based on your utterances, Musa, Moses, Jean-Baptiste, you all do not understand how those things work, and you cannot implement what you do not understand. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't let them fool you. The United Workers' Party is not in the game of gimmicks and bluff. We depend on presenting to you tangible, feasible, real plans and policies that will make a difference in your life. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, trust me, it will make a massive difference in your life. And I don't want to sound selfish, but quite apart from the coverage that I will get and the comfort and confidence it will give me, knowing that I can go to a doctor and not have to worry whether or not I have the money to pay. Going for early treatment and diagnosis before I suffer more complicated situations and more advanced detrimental health situations. I know I can go with confidence to the doctor because I'm covered. And of course, I must admit, I've paid more than my fair share. I've paid more than my fair share in contributions to the charitable fundraisings that have taken place. Mind you, I'm not complaining because if I find myself in a situation without health coverage, I will depend on my fellow men. But let's not have to do that. Now, you will ask me, how exactly? I want to read to you a little script I have here on national health insurance, just to give you a general overview on some of what I have already explained and some of the other things that I think you need to know. So, the question is, do you want to worry about how you can pay your medical bills? Absolutely not. And I pause here to say, I keep repeating that, I've said it a few times at the public meetings that I attended in Grosley, that there's this gentleman called Mashop. He has not been buried yet. Hello? Pardon? Oh, sorry. Yeah, his funeral was actually today. I was just corrected. Mashop's funeral was actually today. He was, stricken with an illness. He had to be hospitalized. His condition worsened, and he needed more advanced medical care, for which he did not have the finances necessary. And so his family, his community, decided to raise funds on his behalf so that he could get the medical care that he wanted. It was slated for some Saturdays ago, but just days before the fundraising activity, he passed away. He died waiting to raise the funds that were needed to provide him with the medical care that he wanted. He was buried today. I am not God. I'm not a guardian. But ladies and gentlemen, he may very well have been alive today if he had gotten timely medical care with NHI, National Health Insurance. That would not have been a situation that he would have been placed in. So, worry no more. Let National Health Insurance take care of your medical worries. You no longer have to make a choice. In fact, you don't have to say to yourself, boy, I am feeling too well, but if I go to the doctor, how will I eat? That's the money I had there to buy food. So it's not your food or paying your medical bills. You can go to the doctor knowing that you are covered. So, how is that possible? And that's a legitimate question. Those of you who do not know how it is possible, do not spew garbage like the health minister, Moses Musa Jean-Baptiste, did. Ask questions and it will be explained to you. Because there are people who will not be able to afford the premium. But let me just tell you how that works. The government pays for the unemployed. So if you're not working, you can't afford to pay. The government pays for the unemployed, the elderly, children, part or total for government workers and single parents. Okay? Employers and employees will make a combined contribution towards the payment of the premiums. Okay? Premiums and insurance amount. As I said to you, the premiums will cost per person somewhere in the region of $1,200 per year, which as, my math's not too off, which as I said, is about $100 per month. A health insurance card will be issued to everyone with their legal names on it. Pardon? Okay, and can you put off my earpiece, please? Thank you. So the insurance will be worth $75,000, as you have been told, and that will be used by you for paying any medical expenses. Now understand, when they say that your medical coverage is worth, your medical insurance is worth $75,000, they're not just going to give you $75,000. The insurance company will pay based on the cost of your treatment and your care. So if I go to the doctor and it costs, just for a scan, I don't know how much it costs, let's say it costs $1,000, $800, they will pay $800. They won't give me $75,000. That's not how insurance works. However, if I have a complicated medical operation like surgery or something like that to perform, and it costs somewhere in the vicinity of $70,000, $75,000, my insurance coverage will take care of that. Okay? So, the insurance will be used by you for paying any medical expenses. And let me just tell you what those medical expenses include. It includes services such as doctor's visit, medication, x-rays, hospitalization, that is a stay at hospital, blood tests, MRI, CT scans, lab work, medical aids for hearing, walkers, wheelchairs, etc. Now listen to this. Cancer treatment and overseas treatment will also be included. Your insurance health card can be used at both government and private hospitals. So some of you may prefer to go at Tapio. Of course, you'll pay more. But once it's within the $75,000, you're covered. Okay? You can go to private clinics, private pharmacies, and like I indicated to you, there will be no more need for barbecue, donation sheet, fundraising, GoFundMe, activities such as dances, cake sales, and so on. Your insurance will cover all medical that you will require. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, like the Creole will say, what more do you want? That is a government that has given thought to the plight of St. Lucians. And while we are healthy, we are not sensitive to the plight of those who are afflicted with illnesses. Some of them die for want of finances to take care of the health situation. That, ladies and gentlemen, thankfully, and I'm saying thanks in advance, will be a thing of the past. That, ladies and gentlemen, will especially be beneficial to the poor, indigent, elderly, people who cannot fend for themselves. Because like anything else, the middle class, the wealthy, can get private medical insurance to cover them when they are sick. So, I just thought I needed to deal with that situation once and for all, and I'm hoping that my discussion on the subject has provided greater clarity to you and to know that this is not just a phantom idea, this is not just a fantasy, this is not a pipeline dream, this is a feasible, realistic policy that the United Workers' Party will implement for the benefit of all St. Lucians. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a game changer. And on the basis of that single policy, every right-thinking St. Lucian should seriously consider ensuring that they go out to vote on the 1st of December to cast a vote for the United Workers' Party to bring into being, to bring into reality policies such as these. And when I speak, people ask me if that's the only policy that the United Workers' Party has. That's my favorite. That's the one I give highest priority, and that's one I'm most excited about. However, there are other policies. As I said to you earlier, the United Workers' Party will also address your security and safety needs in this country. I don't have to tell you how frightened you are these days to walk on our streets, because every now and then we have a bloodbath taking place in our communities, and it's not just one community, all over the country. We have young people dying on the streets and in the gutters in the communities of St. Lucia on a regular basis, so much so that since the St. Lucia Labour Party assumed office and the Prime Minister appointed himself as the Minister of National Security, we have had over 70 murders every year for the last 4 years consecutively. Ladies and gentlemen, during that time, we have set and broken records in the number of murders that are taking place in this country. If we are going to set records, let's say Go Julian Go, set a new record for the women's 100 meters. Let's say Go Government Go, set a new record for unemployment in this country. Set a new record for reducing the afflictions we have when it comes to lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, such as hypertension, such as heart problems. These are the records we need to set. Bring down the cost of living. And there are policies to do that as well. But I was talking about security. The United Workers' Party has promised, as one of their policies, they are going to implement a border control agency. Ladies and gentlemen, along with that, they are going to reinstate a full complement of the K9 units that are required to sniff out the guns, the drugs, and the illegal money that are coming into this country that is causing an escalation in crime, that is providing the means for young people to settle their differences and their disputes by using a gun, thereby increasing the number of homicides, the number of murders that are taking place in our society, sometimes in broad daylight among innocent people. When you reduce the number of guns, you automatically reduce the incidence of gun violence. So, they're also talking about continuing the program of CCTV cameras on lamp poles. They're also talking about beefing up the forensic lab. When we're talking about providing the scanners that are needed, for the police to detect those illegal contraband that is being brought into the country, which includes guns and drugs. All of those things, ladies and gentlemen, will make for a safer St. Lucia, where you can live a life with greater ease and freedom, because we have seen under the St. Lucia Labour Party that on more than one occasions, our freedom was taken away from us. And in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, the people of Vieux Fort know exactly what I'm talking about. They were under curfew, okay, on more than one occasion, because the community was under siege by gangsters, by gun-toting gangsters who took over, and the police, of course, had to bring in RSS to help to curb the situation. The unfortunate thing is, if at least the St. Lucia Labour Party had a plan, had policies in place to give us some reprieve from the current situation, I would be here tonight discussing and arguing which policy is better, that of the United Workers' Party or the St. Lucia Labour Party. But they have none. Your Prime Minister and Minister of National Security had as his response to you, when you called on him for answers for the crime situation, the escalating crime situation that we have in this country, you will remember his famous response to us was, "I am not a police." Well, my friend, if you're not a police, you knew you were not a police, You feel it's a police that has to take the job, but you took the job and you performed so disastrously, it is time to fire you. I called on you on several occasions to dismiss yourself, to fire the Minister of National Security. You ignored me. Well, guess what? You can't ignore me no more, because the situation is no longer in your hands. The people of St. Lucia on the 1st of December will fire you for doing such a poor job. You are a dismal failure as Prime Minister, and in particular as Minister of National Security. So, Border Control Agency, K9 units, beefing up of CCTV cameras, all deterrents to reducing crime and controlling crime, and the other measures that will be taken, to ensure that we are safer in this country. Cost of living. I'm just talking about the things that affect me. Cost of living. When there were high prices in this country, the prices at the supermarkets were going through the roof. The St. Lucia Labour Party got calls from the opposition United Workers' Party as to what could be done to provide some reprieve, to give some relief to St. Lucians so that they do not feel such a hit on their pocket. The Prime Minister's response was, you will remember, inflation is imported. There is nothing I can do about it. Now that an election is approaching, he's scrambling, trying to come up with policies. But if there's nothing you can do about it, why are you trying to do anything? Instead of providing you with a relief, he came with a policy, with a plan to make things worse for you. He imposed a 2.5% levy, which is a compounding tax on St. Lucians, so that you had to pay 2.5% more on all goods and services, and in some cases that 2.5% was multiplied as the product went through the various stages before it got to the consumer. That is wickedness. That is callous. That is lack of regard and consideration for the plight of your people. The time has come for you to pay for that. We paid through our noses the high prices at the supermarkets. Now is the time for you to pay, and you will pay on the 1st of December. Another thing you have to pay for is the fact that on the international market, oil prices went down. And even when the price of a barrel of oil was below $60, you kept the price of a gallon of fuel at the pumps at our gas station at least $16, and even at times up to $17.95, the highest in the OACS. Just as the people who acquire the fuel, the same place where we get ours, can bring it lower. Why didn't you bring it lower for the benefit of our people, especially given that high inflation that we're facing? Well, the United Workers' Party has one of its policies that, given the low price of oil on the international market, as soon as they assume office after December the 1st, in other words, I'm reminding them that by January, I want, when I pull up at a gas station, I pay $14 or less for a gallon of gas. That, ladies and gentlemen, will put more money in my pocket and will reduce my expenses. That is another measure to make life more affordable and to make life more livable to the average St. Lucian. There are policies in place for banana farmers, retired banana farmers, justified. They earned it. They're the ones who built our country in the 70s and 80s. And for that, now that they're retired, do not have a pension, I think our country needs to show some regard and gratitude and take care of them. Well, justified again is the removal of the dredging fee on the dam for people in the south. They do not benefit from that service. They should not have to pay for it. I'm in the north, I'll continue to pay for it. I pay for a service. If I get the service, I have no problem. But of course, I'm saying to the United Workers' Party, by the same token, you'll have to do something to improve our water supply to the north. Okay? There is, of course, for the young people, free tuition at Sarafo Lewis Community College. There are people who have the brains, they have the intelligence, the brilliance to have the requirements to enter St. Louis Community College, but they do not have the finances required, and so they have to be denied of that opportunity. That will be a thing of the past. Once you have what it takes in terms of the academic requirements, you will be able to attend, because the government of St. Lucia will ensure that you do not have to pay any tuition or anything like that. Those are remarkable policies that will be life changers to many people. For the young people, you know, we heard the present government talk about youth economy, but everything they do is solely geared at vote catching and electioneering. Nothing seriously transformational, just a transaction to bring votes. So they give young people $5,000 grant and tell them go and open a business. They said they have given over 1,000 young people. How many businesses exist as a result of that grant? And it's not surprising, because that grant is woefully inadequate to start any serious business. So the United Workers' Party have decided they won't tokenize young people. They will be serious about transforming the lives of young people and giving them real opportunity. So as a result, they will increase the grant to $25,000. That brings you a lot closer to real dollars that can put you in a position to start a real business that will be able to sustain and grow and provide for you a job, and hopefully job for others. I'm particularly impressed, although it will not benefit me. I already have my home. But for first-time homeowners and young people, government is providing a mortgage guarantee so that you can acquire the requisite finances that is needed for you to buy your house and land. A remarkable, life-transforming endeavor that will benefit individuals and, in some cases, change the prospects for a lot of families. They are also looking at the modern world that we're living in and preparing our young people for the modern world and to be able to take advantage of that modern world. And so they are going to put in place a digital academy where young people can go and learn to become proficient, skilled and trained in the areas of robotics, in the areas of AI, cybersecurity, and all those digital areas where these things are in high demand. However, given the global nature of those jobs, you can sit right here in St. Lucia at your home with your laptop and earn a living by working for companies internationally. That, I think, is a game changer for the young people, because we have a lot of intelligent, smart young people down here who can take advantage of that kind of opportunity. Another thing that is very important to me, the United Workers' Party has decided that it is time to stop tokenizing youth and talk about the leaders of tomorrow and whatever. Well, the young people are here. They are present. So what tomorrow are you talking about? If there is a tomorrow, let them help shape the tomorrow that they will be the principals to face that tomorrow. And so the United Workers' Party has decided in tangible terms to give meaning to youth participation by giving youth a place at the table. They have already begun demonstrating it. When you look at the slate of candidates, when you look at the senators, the parliamentarians, they have already begun demonstrating it. They are going to ensure that on boards and government agencies and so on, that youth are brought to the table to help make decisions and shape the future that they will be impacted by. I think that is remarkable. I think that's a great departure from the tokenization that youth were given in the past. They have also decided that they're going to assist the National Youth Council, okay, by providing them with financial assistance as well as other opportunities for training to help in strengthening constituency councils, constituency council, and to help the individuals be more participatory in the life of their communities. I think all of those things are welcomed and will bring about a change for the better in the right direction. So when it comes to plans and policies, obviously I've not articulated all, but just those that came to mind, I just spoke about them. But there is something in the plans and policies of the United Workers' Party for everyone. For everyone. And so, while what I said is not exhaustible, but you get the drift, you get the idea. The other side, all they do is tokenization. They give you handouts to help you for now, but that you remain dependent on them. Nothing transformational, strictly transactional. Look, $500, I'll give you a bonus so that you can give me a vote. Look, a handout here, I'll give you a sheet of plywood so I can get your vote. It is all about being in power. It is all about politics. It is all about being elected. The United Workers' Party is about the development of this country. The transformation that is required to make St. Lucia a better place to live and to make the lives of St. Lucians better in the country where they live. And that is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between the St. Lucia Labour Party and the United Workers' Party. And by the way, I think the United Workers' Party pulled a good one on the St. Lucia Labour Party because they are tired of asking them to stop using state resources and institutions as part of their political campaign for their party. And we have seen that being demonstrated across the board with impunity, with no reservations at all whatsoever. And so when they come just before an election, they will give you $500 bonus and so on. That's a ploy to get the vote of the public servants. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter how the election goes. A United Workers' Party winning the election will ensure that you still get your $500 bonus. So don't use that as a political weapon. They have neutralized that. Okay? So you're guaranteed. And you run and make a big show, put on a political event with the SSDF to say that you're going to make caregivers permanent, and you have people making partisan political speeches in a government function, okay, using government resources, using government institutions and so on. And to make matters worse, let me just say before I go there, let me just say that the United Workers' Party will, in fact, continue the program of ensuring that those people are permanent. However, they will remove that stipulation of that 3 months probation for people who have been in their job for years, have proven themselves, have renewed contracts. You have them on probation. Why? Because you want to have them on a leash and that you want to have dominion and control over them. So you can wave that big stick to say to them, if you don't vote for me, you are going to be dismissed after the election. Well, you don't have to worry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Have no fear. You can go and vote for the United Workers' Party. First of all, they will be out, okay? And the United Workers' Party will remove that probationary period that was imposed on you. That's how we do it. And contrary to what they try to make you believe that we are going to terminate the caregivers program, we recognize that the caregivers program is inadequate in terms of its coverage. We are going to increase the numbers of caregivers so that the people who require, the clients who require that service can be provided with that service. They can get that service. But talking about that, plain politics. I have gotten reports that in Grozile, the supervisor for the caregivers in Grozile, okay, is handing Labour Party political paraphernalia to the workers and saying to them that you have to attend this event and that event, which is actually political event in this election campaign. That is unethical, that is immoral, that is undemocratic, and that is outright wrong. You cannot use state resources as part of your political campaign to advance your political cause. That is taxpayers' money. Political parties have to find their campaign financing and organize their own campaign strategies outside of government resources. Government resources should not be used for that purpose. But the St. Lucia Labour Party is doing it with impunity. So much so that the reports that I receive indicate that apart from threatening them and telling them they have to attend Labour Party events, they are telling them that when the Labour Party canvassers go to the homes of the clients that they take care of, if they say that they are supporting the United Workers' Party, after the elections they will withdraw the services from them. So much so that some of the caregivers are saying to the clients that when those canvassers come here, regardless who you support, tell them you support in the Labour Party, because they are afraid that the service will be withdrawn from the people, so the people will not get the much needed service provided to them. But at the same time, if they are removed from the program, these people are afraid that they now will not have someone to provide care for and that they'll be out of a job. Ladies and gentlemen, that is wrong. That is political terrorism. Using, besides, like I said, it's unethical and immoral to try to use state apparatus, state resources and institutions to advance your partisan political agenda. That is wrong. But let me say to the workers and the clients who receive the care, you need not have any fear, because there will be a change of government and there will be a change in approach to governance. When the United Workers' Party forms the next government, it will be nobody's business who you support, who you vote for. You have a democratic right to support who you want. However, my advice to you is support who is in your best interest and who will provide you with more long-term, sustainable growth, advancement, and care, where you will not have to depend on politicians who can wave a big stick over you and dictate to you what you should and shouldn't do. That, ladies and gentlemen, I think is despicable, and on account of all of those things, this government has to go. Can you imagine giving this government another 5-year term to continue and to become more brazen and more emboldened in those kinds of tactics? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a government that has tried to erode all the tenets of democracy in this country. You have seen them launch an attack on the media by usurping most of the media practitioners and making them become mouthpieces of the government or the St. Lucia Labour Party. The media is very important in a democracy. But they have ensured that they dismantle the media. That is the characteristic of a dictatorship party and dictatorial politicians with dictatorial tendencies. We have to be careful about that. We have to watch them as they practice those things, because these are the things that happen in authoritarian societies, where you have dictators who try to run one-party state and to decimate any form of opposition whatsoever. When and if that happens, you will have lost your freedom, you will have lost your right to speak and to do whatever it is that you want. Please protect and preserve those rights that have been fought for on your behalf, that have been earned for you. Let us not regress. Let us not have to go back to battle to fight for those things. These are things that we are entitled to, that we have a right to. Let us preserve it. And to preserve it, you have to ensure that you get rid of politicians with a tendency, with dictatorial tendencies, who want to bring us into those dark days and to run this country in the way that they want. So the intimidation continues. A campaign is on, and the Labour Party is behaving and indoctrinating their supporters to behave in a manner as if they are the only ones who have a right to go out, campaign, and to advance their message. They are behaving as if the United Workers' Party and other politicians do not have a right, just as they do, okay, to be out there in the election campaign and to be respected, whether you agree with their opinion or not. And so, we see and we hear complaints about people's paraphernalia being destroyed. You hear complaints about aggression at parties where Labour supporters come and, begin to heckle and threaten and behave in an intimidatory manner. That is uncalled for. That is not like us. We don't know that here in St. Lucia. But if we allow and we condone that kind of behavior, one of two things will happen. It's either we lose our rights and freedoms, or we'll have to go to war to secure and preserve those rights and freedoms. So nip it in the bud. Let us cut it out from now. Let's make it clear that we have no tolerance and no place for that kind of behavior in this country. We know what democracy means. We have always had free and fair election, free from fair elections. do not behave as if St. Lucia belonged to you and you alone. And I blame the leadership of the Labour Party for that kind of behavior on the part of their supporters. Why? I will never forget when Philip Pierre, as Prime Minister of this country, advocated to his supporters, encouraged his supporters to go to the face of UWP supporters and tell them, you lose. That, ladies and gentlemen, is antagonistic. That, ladies and gentlemen, is confrontational, and that can lead to aggression and violence. When Philip Pierre's deputy, Sean Edwards, will say to Labour Party supporters, if you hear them criticizing the government, which they have a right to do, by the way, brother, go and take them on. Whether you're at a funeral, whether you're in a vehicle, whether once you hear them, take them on. Instigating confrontation that can lead to violence. Already you all are presiding over a very violent St. Lucia, where St. Lucians are dying like flies in the streets of St. Lucia. And you all have done nothing. If anything, you all have dismantled the security checks that could have made the situation better, like not continuing the border control program, like ensuring that the scanners were not operational, like dismantling the K9 units. These are the things you all did to exacerbate the situation as opposed to doing something to put it under control. So I blame you all in the leadership of the Labour Party. That is your modus operandi. Because you all cannot come and present arguments, present policies like I just did on behalf of the United Workers' Party, okay, and have confidence that the plans and the policies are sufficiently sound to impress the electorate, to cause the voter to realize that it is in his best interest to vote for your party. You cannot do that. And so you resort to violent tactics. You resort to intimidatory tactics. You resort to dictatorship-style approach to campaigning. Well, you're not going to intimidate anybody. You're not going to stop us. You know, we have a right, and we know our right, and we're going to exercise that right. And you all had better be careful how far you all go with that crap, with that nonsense. Because let me just say to you, nobody's going to roll over and let you all kill them. Okay? Nobody's going to do that. Understand that we have a right just as you have a right. Okay? And it is my right to criticize any government as I so choose. This is a democracy. It is still a democracy. And that is why we are going to the polls to exercise that democratic right, to remove the St. Lucia Labour Party as our government, because we are displeased with your performance. You have failed in your efforts. The many things you promised, you did not deliver. Plus, the level of corruption that has accompanied your tenure is unheard of, intolerable, and unbearable in our country. It has cost our country billions. Billions. The CIP alone has cost us billions of dollars. And that you have to answer for. You have put in place, with all your gimmicks and your bluff and the games that you play, you have put in place a special prosecutor. Ever heard of people digging their own grave? Have you all heard of that? Tanto, tanto. I assure you, while the special prosecutor was put in place by the St. Lucia Labour Party as a gimmick, okay, to continue the bluff perpetrated on the electorate of St. Lucia, we will give effect to what a special prosecutor should do and have a special prosecutor actually perform the role and function that it should perform. Be careful. Be careful. You're asking for Guy Joseph, Alan Shastney, and UWP parliamentarians to be jailed. Be careful what you'll ask for. That's my warning to you. And that is why some of you will go out of your way with all the corrupt finances that you have accumulated and spend big money to try to buy votes because you're running scared. And you're shitting bricks. The time is approaching. Judgment day is approaching. You all know if you lose this election and you're out of office, what the possibilities are for you. That is your problem. So, you're not going to get cover because St. Lucians are not going to allow you to buy their votes. Things are rough. Things are hard. That I understand. But when you come with the money, we know that it is our money. Our money that has been siphoned through other channels to end up in your hands so that you could come now and want to buy us out. But we are a people of pride and dignity. We know our worth. You cannot buy us. We'll take the money. We'll eat you all out. We'll drink you all out. And on the 1st of December, we'll make a point to vote you all out. And that is what is going to happen. And so I say to the average voter, when they come with the money, take it. When they come with the food and the rum, if you are into food and rum, take it. But when it comes to election day, kick them out. That is what they're worth. Because if after 4.5 years, you have to try to buy votes, it means you have recognized and you're acknowledging that you are a colossal failure, that you cannot stand on your record of performance, that you have to resort to bribery to try to win an election. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how much more time we have. Have we exhausted our extra time? Okay, we still have some more time. I want to open the lines right now to give you an opportunity. Let me hear what you think. As right-thinking St. Lucians, I want to say to you, do not just allow politicians to push garbage down your throat. Analyze for yourself. Evaluate what it is that they're taking you. Check it out. Weigh it. And come to your own conclusions. So, in this election, compare the two parties and the two candidates, or if there are more in your constituency. Contrast all the plans, the policies, and ideas that they bring to you. And then you make a choice. I assure you, if you do that, you will find yourself favoring the United Workers' Party, because that is the party with a vision. That is the party with a plan. That is the party with the policies that will transform St. Lucia and transform your lives for the better. You are not supposed to fall for the transactional politics of the St. Lucia Labour Party that will only serve you for today. But you'll be at their whims and fancies and at their mercy tomorrow, begging them for crumbs. You don't want that. You deserve better than that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open the line right now. Our telephone number, landline 4500777. Again, 4500777. And our WhatsApp number is 284-3499. Again, 284-3499. You can call in and have your opportunity to tell it like it is. Please, you have to be courteous, or you know how it will be with me. And I would like to get as many callers as possible, so please do not usurp the line for too long. Do we have any callers as yet? Okay, we have a caller immediately. Caller, hey. Good evening, welcome to Like It Is. Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Good evening, my brother.
Boy, I don't know if you have a direct line to her, you know, but...
My brother, God is good, and God will give me the avenue to call and say, Spider, thank you, my brother. You deserve a gold award for educating St. Lucians about the right to vote, our most important right.
Well, Golden Dragon, forget the gold award. Just ensure that we have a change of government, yes, and I will be satisfied. That'll be more than rewarding to me.
I'm just saying that your contribution to our people, it is of education and teaching them to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Said the Philip Joker Pier. I have to go, must go.
I endorse that statement.
And Spider, I want you to do me a favor.
Yeah, let me hear it.
Try and put an injunction that the Labour Party must not use St. Lucia. They are the LP. So when I go and vote, I don't see SLP. They don't represent St. Lucians. They represent a small few people who are not smart and intelligent enough to know what wrong is wrong. And any political party who has, when they office, they are a humble servant. So if you say remove the 2.5%, it's bad for us. They're supposed to remove it because we are their bosses. They are humble servants. If we say the price of gasoline should not be $16 but $11 or $10, they have to bring it down because we are their bosses. We put them there. They are our humble servants. But they behave like they are our gods, our kings, and they say, no, we're not reducing the gas. No,
Okay, thank you, caller, for your contribution.
Let me just tell you, they
Yes,
have to go, they must go, and God will help us to get them out.
thank
All
you.
of us, it's our right to vote. Let's vote and vote for the color.
I agree.
Any other color, but not red. Thank you, my brother.
Yes. Okay, then, have a good night. Yes, do we have any other callers? No. But you see, at the end of the day, I want St. Lucians to know. One of the things that the St. Lucia Labour Party do, I'm exposing their tactics because it comes to me when you go to the people talk, and they go to you and they say to you that they're going to give you so much money for you to vote for them, and if you do not vote for them, you had better vote for them because if you don't, they will know. There's no way of knowing who you vote for. It is secret ballot. Unless you ask someone to vote for you, they will not know. So even if you take their money, you go and vote for the party that you know that will make a difference, that is more deserving of your vote. So you can go there with the money in your pocket and vote for the United Workers' Party candidate. Because by right, they're not supposed to try to bribe you. If they had a plan and a program for you that would benefit you, that's what they would be selling, not trying to buy you. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is. Go ahead and make your contribution, please. Hello? Yes, good evening.
Everybody?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what I want to tell Cyber, you have to explain for the thing there is enough people.
Hold on, caller. I didn't pick up what you said because hold on a second. I'm not picking up what you're saying clearly because the voice sounding a little muffled, so I can't make out what you're saying. Can you do something about that? Try again, caller. Go ahead.
Good night.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
What I saying, I would like to try that to explain to the people the result. What is the meaning when the house is dissolved?
Okay.
Yes, you don't know nothing about that. There's the minister going around picking the people, going and pick the people. So I'd like you to explain what's the meaning of the house dissolved.
Okay. The house being dissolved means that, the Prime Minister has written to the Governor General asking him, in fact, to dissolve the house. That means the term of the government has come to an end. And so at this point in time, they give you a certain period. In our case, it was 21 days before the next general election. In the interim, during that time, the former ministers are no longer able to engage in any major policy decisions or to sign any major documents and engage in many major transactions on behalf of the country. So it is pretty much predominantly run by the public service, so to speak. And so while they can engage in certain little transactions and so on, they should not even be doing what they are doing right now, using government resources and government institutions to put on events to advance and promote the cause of the St. Lucia Labour Party like they did at St. Jude's yesterday. And they keep doing, having party political event. They had a SLP rally yesterday at St. Jude and government had to pay for it. There were government workers present. The whole institution was used in that SLP rally that took place there. That is wrong and that should not be. And it is people who lack integrity, people who do not understand the democratic process and do not respect the democratic process, who try to use state resources and state institutions for their personal political advantage. That is not good governance, and we should get rid of those people because they are eroding all the pillars of democracy in our country, and they do not know the tenets of true democracy, and as a result, we should get rid of them. So when they say that the house is dissolved, in effect, the term of the last government has come to an end. And we just in that interim period trying to decide who our new government is going to be. Yes. Yeah. Do we have another caller? Yes. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is. Go ahead and make a contribution, please.
Good evening, Mr. Monty. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you.
I want to categorically that come December 1st, that I am casting my vote for the United Workers' Party.
Well, that's a good decision.
And I will give you two main reasons why
I'm curious. I'm very curious to hear.
And
And I want to encourage all young people in particular on Monday, December 1st, to cast a vote for the United Workers' Party. Because just on the fact that the United Workers' Party has presented a new policy, such as there will be free tuition for young people who have the desire and want to enter the Appalachian Community College, that for sure was my seller. The other seller for me, policy seller for me, was the fact that the United Workers' Party is saying to young people that there will be a digital academy so they can go there and learn robotics, learn all the technical skills in the creative, in whatever creative or technical skill that we so desire. A United Workers' Party will give you that opportunity to young people with the formation of a digital academy. And so I want to say to all St. Lucians, the only viable option right now, the only sensible political choice right now, come December 1st, is to cast a vote by the United Workers' Party. And so my vote this coming general election will be for the United Workers' Party. Have a blessed night, Mr. Montu.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to hear you as a young person saying that you are actually involved in the electoral process, that you are going to exercise your franchise and go out and vote. And I'm even happier that it is for the United Workers' Party that you're going to vote. Thank you very much. Encourage your friends to do the same. Yes, good evening. Do we have any caller? No, we don't. And so, you know, I was saying, encouraging a young man to go out and vote. You know, when you stay home and you say, me, I'm not participating in this, I'm not going to vote and so on, you become part of the problem because you're not doing anything to remedy the problem. And do not stay at your home and say all politicians are the same. All politicians are not the same. Because if you listen to the plans and the policies, if you look at the approaches, you can see the difference. We have someone online? Yes, good evening. Welcome to Like It Is. Go ahead and make a contribution, please. Good night. Kalau pudula wetia mapasa fesa fin kompon saukadi. Let me deep kompon. C'est pas kompon maka fin tan saukadi because voix pas vini clair mana si bose mana doit être mais mapasa. Can we correct that? Is it a WhatsApp call? Landline? I'm not making out what the caller is saying, to be very honest with you, and I would have liked to be able to, you know, discern what is being said. Caller, essayons qu'on pourrait si mon guys are. The caller is gone. Okay. All right. So you know, I want to encourage every St. Lucian to go out and exercise the franchise, cast your vote, vote for the party and the candidate that you think is better. And if you want help, you know, you can go to the constituency office of any of the UWP candidates and ask them questions, you know, find out what are their plans and the policies. Listen to our programs, you know. Yeah, we have someone on the line. Good evening. Welcome to Like It Is. Go ahead and make a contribution, please. I'm hoping I can discern what you're saying. Go ahead. Mwen parle beaucoup to, oui, c'est tant magasin clair, c'est ça qui est le problème. I can make out what this caller is saying. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry about that. You know, I'd have liked to at least know where the caller is coming from and what it is, his contribution is. Moi, je voulais prendre apologie parce que c'est pas faute nous, ligne n'a pas clair, nous pas tant ça au cas dit clair pour raison ça là, nous pas ça même engagé ou et ben répondre sur une question pour répondre question. So excusez-nous en ça. Je vais essayer l'autre quoi, nous allons régler ça problème, même pas ça problème, ben Nou ka ese wegle ek se un technician na mwen la. So I was saying, it is a right that you have and you have to exercise. It makes a difference who you vote for. Look at the policies of this last regime. Cost of living was higher because of the decision that we made to vote SLP. Price of gas is higher because of the decision we made SLP. With a UWP government, you never have had to go to the bakery and pay almost twice the amount you had to pay 4 years ago for a loaf of bread. You know, we have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is.
Quickly, my brother. You made two mistakes. Stop saying St. Lucia Labour Party. It is the Labour Party. They're not St. Lucia. They don't represent all of us. They represent the small 40%.
No, well, they're not St. Lucia. It's just a name. That's the name.
Labour Party. And try and get an injunction that when I go to vote, I see in the ballot paper the LP, TLP, not SLP. They're not St. Lucia. And stop saying that and stop telling people stop saying St. Lucia. It's the Labour Party, the LP. And secondly, tell people when they go to vote, it's not about party. Huh? The Constitution doesn't mention party. You have individuals, look for the best individual you know can listen to you and help you. So if you say reduce the price of VAT or take out VAT, take out the VAT. If you say reduce the price of gas, they have to reduce the price of gas. We are the directors. We are the bosses, the humble servants. Despite the two things, they must not have SLP, but the LP, the Labour Party. There's not any government agency to use St. Lucia. They don't represent all of us. They cannot use St. Lucia. It's the Labour Party. Stop saying St. Lucia Labour Party. Say the Labour Party, the LP, and ensure.
Okay, caller. I get your point. I get your point. Okay, thank you. All right, caller. Already you're getting two bites at the cherry. Let's not be too long. Thank you very much. I get your point. But the point is, it is a name. That doesn't mean that they are St. Lucia because there's St. Lucia in the name of the party. I mean, it's the name, SLP is the name. So anyway, you know, I was saying that, you know, making sure that you go out there and compare, contrast, and then decide. I'm sure you'll have no difficulty in realizing that the only choice is the United Workers' Party, because we have put together a formidable team of men and women who are competent, who have tried, tested, and proven in their various individual fields, and they will bring that expertise to bear to government to ensure that they work for your best interests and for the development of our country. It is a very consequential election, as was stated by Tommy Descott. This election is very important. What we do will determine for the next 5 years what direction our country goes into. And it will very well determine whether we lose some of the rights and privileges that we already have. Because if you look at the tendencies of the St. Lucia Labour Party, they are busy chipping away at, you know, the pillars of democracy in this country, and they look very much like they do not respect rights and freedoms of people here, and that they are bent on using government for their personal aggrandizement, for enhancing their wealth and finances and becoming more affluent, while the resources of the country is pilfered for their benefit and that of their immediate cabal, so to speak. And so, yes, we have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, good evening. Are you hearing me, Spider?
I am hearing you. I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay, good evening, Spider.
Good evening.
I'm calling with regards to this dissolution of Parliament. Okay?
Yes.
So when the writ is requested for the dissolution of Parliament, the Parliament, as in the elected persons, are dissolved. Correct?
Yes, it's correct.
Good. And now there's a difference between Parliament and Cabinet, but because the majority of the parliamentarians naturally become Cabinet members, there are one or two that are not elected persons, we understand that, then there is no Cabinet. Is that so?
You are correct.
Okay, very well. Now let's go to another interesting point. But every government needs to have two persons needs to form a government. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General. Is that correct?
Well, according to the Constitution, you must have a Prime Minister, an Attorney General, and a Minister of Finance.
And a Minister of Finance. Okay,
Yes.
right. Yeah, I left out the Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
Okay, very well. Now I'm going somewhere. So from now until the election, there's a Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and Attorney General. The Attorney General, we know why. The Prime Minister is because if there is any urgent matter, national matter,
All right.
okay, then there is somebody that could take a decision on it, and the Constitution provides for that, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, very well. That means the Prime Minister and the Attorney General's seating would serve until the election results is announced. Isn't that so?
Yes, but however, there's a proviso. That doesn't mean that they can, engage in major decisions and, take on new policies on behalf of government at this point in time.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. So it's only emergencies, like
Right.
something that just happened, a hurricane
That's
or
correct.
something. Okay, so we understand that. But there is a point, because there was something that happened some elections ago, but we're not going to go into that. We're not going to play the red and yellow. But the Prime Minister sits until the election result is announced. Now, if there is any dispute in the election, the Prime Minister remains until the dispute is resolved. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. And I think the Governor General would have a role in that as well.
Absolutely. It has to be approved by the Governor General. I just wanted to explain this thing so persons who are listening could understand what happens between now and an election result is announced, and then we have starting after the election with the Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, and an Attorney General. I just wanted to explain that.
Right.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me, Spider?
No, but I have to tell you, I do appreciate and welcome what you just did there. Anything to enlighten us is welcome. And I'm sure my viewers and listeners appreciated it. Yeah.
Okay, if you're still hearing me, I lost you, but thank you very much for the time.
Okay, thank you for calling. I appreciated your call. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are running out of time here, are we? How much time do we have? Yeah. Pardon? We're out of time. Okay, well, I must say I did enjoy the program tonight. I want to say to you that we are in the meat of the season, election season, and campaigning is taking place in earnest. I want you to go out and listen, tune in, find out who's who, and who's providing you with the better options, the better plans for a better St. Lucia, and vote on merit. Vote based on plans and policies, not just arbitrarily based on vote for the future of your country and vote for a better life in St. Lucia. I assure you that with the plans of the United Workers' Party, you will find that you will have far better prospects voting for a United Workers' Party government, given the team that they have, given the plans and policies that they have, that you will end up in a much better situation. One party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, is transactional. The United Workers' Party is transformational. You want a transformation in your life that will take us from where we are and put us in a higher place, so that as we go along, our lives continue to improve and we continue to have a better country. Let us preserve the institutions that provide us with the benefits that we enjoy, like our freedoms, our rights, equality, justice, and all of this. Let us not vote for people who are so consumed with power and their own personal aggrandizement that they will go at lengths to erode the tenets and the pillars of democracy to ensure that they can hold on to power, to continue to abuse the resources of this country, as we have seen with the St. Lucia Labour Party. We have a government that has been accused of all kinds of corruption, and we have seen evidence of it, for example, in the CIP program. We are seeing evidence of it with the GPH situation. We heard of $20 million for housing that we have not gotten an account for. We see 3 little houses in Dennery that the Prime Minister himself declared it is not for people, but it is fit for the poorest of the poor. We have the National Lotteries Authority, where $80 million was borrowed by the National Lottery Authority, which eroded all the funds that should have been in place to provide programs and to work on projects for young people. All of it has been consumed by that loan, and up to now, we cannot get an account of how that money has or is being spent. And, you know, we see all the practices of dictatorship. We see all the practices of corruption taking place right before our very eyes. We are being lied to daily, in and out, where the government has now trampled on the trust that should exist in that relationship between government and people. They have betrayed that trust, and I think the time has come for us to put all of this to an end. Go out on the 1st of December. Ensure that you cast a vote for the candidate of the United Workers' Party and bring all of this to an end. I ask you to join me on Thursday for Meet the Government in Waiting. That is the program that the opposition has become. As we get closer to election, the House has been dissolved. You have a government in waiting, and that is the government of the United Workers' Party under the leadership of Alan Chastanet. A formidable team of men and women. Tune in as we bring you more information on the plans and policies of the St. Lucia Labour Party and on the issues that are of interest and concern to you. Go out and tune in. On Thursday, we have a national meeting in Soufrière where our manifesto will be presented. On Sunday, we have a massive rally in the Dennery Valley. So I ask you to tune into all of this so that you stay informed and enlightened. I want to thank once again all of you who came out on Sunday to give us this massive success in the Boulevard. I want to thank all of you who tuned in from the diaspora and around St. Lucia. I want to thank you for your patience, and I'm hoping that you had an enjoyable program. I want to wish you a good night, a happy night's rest, and like I said, stay tuned to the United Workers' Party. That is the party for your future. Thank you and good evening.
From your communal telling lies. How much more money we have to lose? How many more people they want to fool? Chastanet is the man, you pay. Where the money for the CIP? Like them fellas have a money tree. So why not voting for Labour Party? Them fellas mashing up the whole country. Tell them fellas ring the bell. Tell them man them ring the bell. Tell Labour Party ring the bell.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the hosts, guests, and callers are solely their opinions and responsibility. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Hot 7 TV or its affiliates.
Hot 7 TV is the rising star of television in St. Lucia with our stunning 100%